Hello everyone. Let us continue with our second class on working with functions. We have already covered in our previous class up to passing parameters. So we will be covering in this class returning values from functions, composition and scope of variables. Now let's look into returning values from functions. Functions, there are two types of returning values from function. The first type is functions returning some value, that is a non-void function. The functions that return some computed result in terms of a value. So when we write our function definition, usually it will return some value. So you will end your function definition with return and with the particular value. So the example given here is like you can return 5, that's a number, then an expression like 6 plus 4, or another variable can be returned, or another expression this way. This is the way we can have a function definition which returns some value. So these are the one which is defined here are known as a non-void function. Whereas we can have another functions which does not return any value, which we call it as a void function. The functions that perform some action or do some work but do not return any computed value or final value. So for example, if I write return and does not return any value at all, this type it is known as functions not returning any value. So the function which do not return any value, but it will return a legal empty value of Python, that is known as none. So suppose I have a function definition greet, and under that what this function is printing a hello statement. So after this function definition, suppose I'm calling this greet from some other part from the program, a is equal to greet. So when the compiler sees this, it will go back to the greet and print hello. And after that, the print a is here. So the output for this particular line will be, since a will call the function greet, so this will print out hello. But in the next line, the hello a is that since this particular function is not returning any value, so the output none will be printed out. So this is an example of functions not returning any value. Now, another example to show you is that it is possible even to return multiple values from your function. There I have set aside here two example. Here, see, I have written definition square xyz and return x multiplied by x, y multiplied by y, z multiplied by z. So this means this is going to perform a square of all the variables that is passed to them. So I have t is equal to square. So that means x value will be 2, y value will be 3, and z value will be 4. So when the compiler sees this line, it calls a function and passes value 2, 3, and 4. So 2 multiplied by 2 will be 4, 3 multiplied by 3 will be 9, and z is 4. So 4 multiplied by 4 will be 16. So after this line, after passing that value and storing those value, when I write a print statement, print t, so I will get the output 4, 9, and 16. Another way to have a multiple values, returning value will be this way. See the same program, but instead of writing t is equal to square, I can even store a multiple values, like the square of 2 will be now stored in v1, the square of 3 will be now stored in v2, and the square of 4 will be now stored in v3. And likewise, this value of x will be 2, y will be 3, and z will be 4. So the square of 2 will be 4, 3 will be 9, and 4 will be 16. So after seeing this statement, in the next line, print the output values are such, and print v1, v2, v3 will be now printed. So it will store, as I said, it will store that value. So 4, 9, and 16. So this is another way to return multiple values from our function. Now let's look into composition. In general, composition refers to using an expression as part of a larger expression. So an arithmetic expression can be used, like if you wanted to find out from your function which one is greater, so 9 or 7, is it greater? So you can even define a functions and place your expression inside your function, or even to find out a test using a logical expression like whether a or b. you can use that by calling your function test. Another way is a function call like integer string 52. If you place this in your Python, ideally you should be seeing like 52, and first it will take the float value multiplied with 2 and it will print out only the integer value. The integer value becomes 105, and it will take the string of both of these, so it's not going to perform an addition. So string means we know that it is just to combine these two value pending. So 52 and 10 will be pended, and this we will get this output as well. Okay, so this is the meaning of composition in our Python. Now let's look into a very important topic called the scope of variables. In your exam, you can see a question like what is the difference between global scope and local scope. This is a very important topic. Many times it has been repeated, so you may kindly note this. So scope means a part of a program within which a name is legal and accessible. That part is known as the scope of the name. So that means we can have two kinds of scope. Means a part of your Python program which is accessible. The one part is known as the global scope, a name declared in top level segment, that is in the main part of a program. It is usable inside the whole program. So it's suppose if you declare any variable which is a global variable, then it can be accessed from any part of the program, and usually it will be declared in the top level segment main section. Whereas a local variable or local scope means a name declared in a body function body. It can be used only within this function and the others block contained within it. That means it will be accessible, or you can use this variable that you define inside your local scope will be accessible only to that function. So we will look into this with more example. So here I've already used this in the previous class as well. See, suppose I have a function definition sum x, y, and z is equal to x plus y and return z. Now here, this is my function sum x, y, and under these I have three local variables. They are x, y, and z, and it is returning z value. So my function definitions end here. So these are my local variables. So these are accessible only in this area. Whereas after this part comes my main part of my Python program. So num1 is my global variable, num2 also global variable, and s also global variable. These are my global variable, so which these can be accessed from any part of the program. So num1 you are storing the first number, in num2 you are storing the second number. Now in s I'm calling the function sum by passing the value num1 and num2. So my num1 and num2, whatever is the value that I'm passing to num1 and num2. Suppose if I take this one as 6 and 3, now x value will be storing num1 that is 6 and num2 which is 3. Then the addition will be performed and it will return back to s, and I will be getting my output. So this is the example of the local variables or the local scope and the global variable or global scope. To show you more, this is very important execution of program. I'll be giving you some exercise to do on this as well. So please kindly observe carefully. Here, the same program that I'm showing you, I want you to carefully observe and understand what is the execution of the program. See, I have labeled the steps number here. So once you start your program, what the compiler will do is first it will go to the first line, because we always use the approach of top to bottom approach. So like from the top, it will go down and access each and every line and perform whatever operation your Python program you want to perform. So first it will go here, and since it understands that this is a definition of your function, so it will skip all this. After going to this line, it will skip this line and directly go to line number 4. So that's why from line 1 you will go to line 4, that is execution of the program. And in num1, as I said earlier, this is the global variable. So num1 it will store the value, and after 4 it will go to 5. Again it will store the value 5. It will wait for, since I have give an input option, so the compiler will wait until the user gives some input from your keyboard. So num2 again it will store the second value. Now s, since in s we are calling the function sum, so from here, see, you will see 1, 4 and then 5 and 6 up to here it has gone. Now from sum it has gone back to 1 again because our function is defined in line number 1. So it will go there, and now whatever the value of num1 and num2 are passed here will be now stored in x and y, and it will perform that operations and it will return the value. So from here going to line 1, it will go to line 2 and line 3. So it will go to line 3, and after that, since it has to return some value, so it will come back from where it is called. Since it has to store that value in some s, so it has come back from 3, it will go to 6, and after that finally it will go to s. That means it will store the value in line number 7. So we will be getting this execution of program. So if you have still some doubt on this, you can pause and listen again. And this is the step of execution, what is being done for any particular function that we are defining. So I'm just showing you some diagrammatically as well. See your global variables. Suppose as I say, if I have, these are my global variables. Suppose if it has stored 6 and 3, and then after that, since s has to call this one, so it has gone back there. So in the local variable x and y are now 6 and 3. From there, it has gone back there and stored and performed the operation, that is z is equal to x plus y. That means 6 plus 3, which will store again 9, and from there it will go back to the s and print out the output value, which is s is equal to 9, should be printed out. Okay, this is how the execution of the program takes place. Now, another very important thing that we need to know about Python is, means in regard to function, is a name resolution. So normally your Python will follow these steps. They follow LEGB, means L stands for local environment, E for enclosing environment, G stands for the global environment, and your B stands for the built-in environment. What your Python will do is it will first check whatever variable name that you have defined, whether it is defined inside your local environment or not, whether it has a variable with the same name in your local variable or not. And if not, again, if it does not have the same name, then it will go and check in the enclosing environment. That means it will check whether there's a variable with the say if the variable is in the current environment or not, then Python will repeat these steps, and if not, then it will go on to the next step. That means it will search again in the global environment and whether the variable name has the same name which is defined under your global environment or not. If it is so, then it will use that name. Otherwise, it will skip and move to the next step. That is, it will check in the global environment or not. That means it will check whether it has contained any built-in variables and function of the Python. If there's a variable with the same name, if then it will use that value. Otherwise, it will ignore, or it will show an error message. Sorry. After checking all this, that means this is the way it will be checking: going to local first, and enclosing first, then a global again, and built-in environment. If none of this, if in all of the places, if the variable is not defined, then your Python will report an error saying that return variable not defined. So to show an example here is, suppose if I have defined a greet and print hello. Suppose if it's only hello, then when the function called greet, then it will only print out one line saying hello. But here, along with hello, there's another variable name here defined inside my function greet. So here variable name not defined will be placed because name is not found anywhere. First it will check inside your local environment, it's not finding it, so it will go to the enclosing environment, it's not there, and again it will check in the global environment. The global here only greet is there, so it's not there, and it will check even the built-in environment to check whether there's any built-in functions or not. Then since it's not there, then at the end it will print an error saying that return name not defined. Okay, this is the name resolution that we use inside our function definition. So another way I wanted to show you how exactly the global and the local variable works. Here is an example. The def state, and under that I have a local variable. Here my tiger is equal to 15 is a local variable, and I'm printing out that tiger value. And this tiger, this is the definition of my my function ends here. Tiger is equal to 95 is now a global variable, and it is printing the tiger, and it will go back, it will call the state function, and again after that it will print out the tigers here. The meaning of this is your output should be this way. See, it will go directly, as I say, from line 1 it will go to line 4. So in the 4, tiger is equal to 95. So it will go to the next line, print tiger. What is currently tiger? Tiger value is 95. So 95 will be printed out. Then it will go to the next line. So in the next line, state, the function is called. So it will go there. Tiger inside here is 15. So it will print a tiger. What will it print? It will print now 15. Now print tigers again. After that, since it's not uh, uh, from here, since it will go back from here, it will go back here, since it is not coming back to state because we're not storing here. So directly from here it will go to the next line, print tigers. So in the global environment, our tiger is still 95, so it will print out only 95. So our output will be 95, 15 and 95. But here this is another example. Suppose uh, if you wanted to define a global variable inside your local function, that you can use a keyword global here. Global tigers means my tiger is global, and tiger is equal to 15 and print is tiger. Then tiger here 95, print tiger, state and print tigers. In this case, it will go to tiger 95. Now my tiger is 95 currently, print tiger, so it will print out 95. Then it go to state, so the current tiger is now 15, so it will print out 15, and even in the next line it is 15 again. Why it is so is because once you declare your variable inside your local function global, it cannot be changed anymore. So though inside my global environment it seems to be 95, but since it is already defined as global and as your tiger as global, so from henceforth whatever value that is defined as tiger, which is 15, will be taken. That's why this will always be 15 now. And actually normally this type of using global variable inside a local is not advised as a good practice. Normally we don't use it, but then just to show you how it works, I've set out the example here. Now let's look into the mutable and immutable properties of past data object. Actually, one thing we need to remember that our Python variables are not storage containers, but rather our Python variables are like memory references. They refer to the memory address where the value is stored. So here to show you, I have written an example. See, this is almost same to the program that I've shown earlier to show the sum of two numbers x and y, and it is storing the output as z. I just want to show you here. I have a function named ABC and I'm passing the value a here, and I need to print out first the value of the a that is received, and after that, after whatever a value is received will be added with 2, and the new change a value will be printed out, and again it will return from the function to from where it is called. So here up to this line, actually up to this line, this is a function definition. So my global or my main program starts from here. So currently my number is 3, and so I'm passing 3 to my function. A value is now, according to this line, num is 3, so a will be 3. So it has gone here. So value of a received is now should be 3, and 3 plus 2 will become 5. Then value of a changes to 5, and returning from function ABC should be printed out after this. After this, normally it will go to this next line, the last line, print back from function ABC, value of num is num. Here in this case, the num will remain as it is, since the value that we are passing is a normal variable. So the output you should be getting is this one only. See, since we are not using that global variable definition also inside our local, and it will remain the same only. The value that you have changed is only inside your local function. So the value received is 3, and it has performed addition, and the new value is now 5. 3 plus 3 is 5, and returning from function here and back, and it is still 3 only. So this is the property of the mutable and immutable. Remember, the value that we can change and we cannot change, that is known as mutable and immutable property. So since this value is a normal variable, so we cannot change the value, so it remains the same. whereas we know that a list is a mutable, that is mutable, that means a value can be changed. So let us look carefully here. I've shown here in my example, suppose if I passing on a list in my function, so whatever is my least zeroth position, I will add with 2, so the value should be changed, and here the function after changes will give a new value, and it is returning and list 1. So here my function list ABC stop here. So my function, I'm assigning a list with only one value 1. So now it will go to the next line, print list before function call list 1. So it will be only one value stored. Then ABC list 1. So this will go to here. So list receive is only one list, and then list 1 plus 2 will become 3, and print list within call function after changes will be now 3, and list after function call, after here it will go back here, it will no longer be 1 but 3. Why? Because a list is a mutable data types that we are passing to our function. All right, that is the reason. So the output that we are getting now will be 1, 1, 3, and 3. Okay, that is a property of our list data type. Now, suppose if you want, just to show you how to pass and add and delete, or suppose if you wanted to perform that addition or deletion, I'm just making some changes here. Suppose my list 1 is equal to 1, initially one value, then print list before function call again, so only one item will be printed out, and ABC list 1, here it will go here. So 1 will be printed out. Now I'm appending 2. Okay, we already know the function my list dot append means I'm adding one more value called 2 in my list. So now I should be having two values 1 and 2 inside my list, and my list extend 5 and 1. I should be adding another item in my list 5 and 1. That means I should be getting 1 comma 2 comma 5 comma 1, and print the list after that. So my list, and now suppose after getting that in my item I wanted to remove 5 from my list. So after removing I should be getting 1, 2 and 1, right? So let's see after this, the final list also you should be getting this. So let's see the output. List before call was 1, list received is 1, list after adding 1 to 5 and 1, and after removing 5 again, I should be getting 1, 2 and 1, and list after function call, I'm getting 1, 2 and now. So you please carefully observe the task that has been performed inside my function here, because sometimes you may get a question like, please find out the output from a particular program this way. So if you get a question like this, you should be getting the final output this way as shown in the right side. Now for you, I want you to perform this exercise. Please find out what should be the output for this, and also you will write the flow of execution, which I have already shown you in the previous slides. I have shown you it step by step, like from line number 1 till 11, how the execution will takes place one by one. Along with that, I want you to show me what will be your output. This is the closing of this particular chapter. Now working with functions, I hope everything is clear, and just to test whether you have really understood the topic or not, I've given this exercise. Please let me know, try to solve it, and you know how to contact me also. So I wish you all the very best. Thank you so much.